All right, guys, Marcus Aurelius Meditations, Book 6. The substance of the whole is passive and malleable, and the reason directing this substance has no cause in itself to do wrong, as there is no wrong in it. Nothing it creates is wrongly made, nothing harmed by it. All things have their beginning and their end in accordance with it. If you are doing your proper duty, let it not matter to you whether you are cold or warm, whether you are sleepy or well slept, whether men speak badly or well of you, even whether you are on the point of death or doing something else, because even this, the act in which we die, is one of the acts of life, and so here too it suffices to make the best move you can. Look within, do not allow the special quality or worth of anything to pass you by. All that exists will soon change. Either it will be turned into vapor, if all matter is a unity, or it will be scattered in atoms. The governing reason knows its own disposition, what it creates, and what is the material for its creation. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Let one thing be your joy and comfort, to move on from social act to social act with your mind on God. The directing mind is that which wakes itself, adapts itself, makes itself of whatever nature it wishes, and makes all that happens to it appear in the way it wants. All things have their accomplishment in accordance with the nature of the whole. It cannot be in accordance with any other nature, either enclosing from without or enclosed within, or any external influence. Either a stew, an intricate web, and dispersal into atoms, or unity, order, and providence. Now if the former, why do I even wish to spend my time in a world compounded at random and in light confusion? Why have any concern other than somehow, sometime, to become earth unto earth? And why actually am I troubled? Dispersal will come on me, whatever I do, but if the latter is true, I revere it. I stand firm, I take courage in that which directs all. When circumstances force you to some sort of distress, quickly return to yourself. Do not stay out of rhythm for longer than you must. You will master the harmony the more by constantly going back to it. So when circumstances force you to some sort of distress, quickly return to yourself. Do not stay out of rhythm for longer than you must. You will master the harmony the more by constantly going back to it. If you had a stepmother and a mother at the same time, you would pay attention to your stepmother, but nevertheless, your constant recourse would be to your mother. That is now how it is with the court and philosophy. So return to philosophy again and again, and take your comfort in her. She will make the other life seem bearable to you, and you bearable in it. How good it is when you have roast meat or such like foods before you, to impress on your mind that this is the dead body of a fish, this the dead body of a bird or pig, and again that the Falernian wine is the mere juice of grapes, and your purple-edged robe simply the hair of a sheep soaked in shellfish blood. And in sexual intercourse, that it is no more than the friction of a membrane and a spurt of mucus ejected. How good these perceptions are at getting to the heart of the real thing and penetrating through it so you can see it for what it is. This should be your practice throughout all your life. When things have such a plausible appearance, show them naked, see their shoddiness, strip away their boastful account of themselves. Vanity is the greatest seducer of reason. When you are most convinced that your work is important, that is when you are most under its spell. See, for example, what Crates says even about Xenocrates. Most of the things valued by the masses come under the categories of what is sustained by cohesion, minerals, timber or natural growth, figs, vines, olives. What is valued by the slightly more advanced belongs to the class of things sustained by a principle of life, such as flocks and herds or the bare ownership of a multitude of slaves. The things valued by yet more refined people are those sustained by the rational soul, not however reason as such, but reason expressed in craftsmanship or some other skill. But the man who fully esteems the soul as both rational and political no longer has any regard for those other things, but above all else keeps his own soul in a constant state of rational and social activity and cooperates to that end with his like. Some things are hurrying to come into being, others are hurrying to be gone, and part of that which is being born is already extinguished. Flows and changes are constantly renewing the world, just as the ceaseless passage of time makes eternity ever young. And this river then, where there can be no foothold, what should anyone prize of all that races past him? It is as if he were to begin to fancy one of the little sparrows that fly past, but already it is gone from his sight. Indeed, this is the nature of our very lives, as transient as the exhalation of vapor from the blood or a breath drawn from the air. no different from a single breath taken in and returned to the air, something which we do every moment. No different is the giving back of your whole power of breathing acquired at your birth just yesterday or thereabouts to that world from which you first drew it. There was nothing to value in transpiring like plants or breathing like cattle and wild creatures, nothing in taking the stamp of sense impressions or jerking to the puppet strings of impulse, nothing in herding together or taking food. This last is no better than voiding the waste of that food. What then is to be valued? Applause? No, not therefore the applause of tongues either. The praise of the masses is the mere rattle of tongues. So you have jettisoned trivial glory too. What remains to be valued? To my mind, it is to act or refrain from action according to our own proper constitution, something to which skills and crafts show the way. Every craft seeks to make its product suit the purpose for which it is produced. This is the aim of the gardener, the vine dresser, the breaker of horses, the dog trainer. And what is the end to which the training of children and their teaching strives? So this is the true value. And if this is firmly held, you will not be set on acquiring any of the other things for yourself. Will you not then cease to value much else besides? Otherwise you will not be free or self-sufficient or devoid of passion. You will need to be envious and jealous, to suspect those who have the power to deprive you of these things, and to intrigue against people who possess what you value. In short, anyone who feels the need of any of these things is necessarily sullied, and what is more, he will often be driven to blame the gods too. But reverence of your own mind and the value you give to it will make you acceptable to yourself, in harmony with your fellows, and consonant with the gods. That is, praising all that they assign and have disposed. Up, down, round and round are the motions of the elements, but the movement of active virtue follows none of these. It is something more divine, and it journeys on to success along a path hard to understand. What a way to behave! They refuse to speak well of people who live as their contemporaries and in their company, but they set great store by their own good name among future generations which they have never seen nor ever will see. Yet this is brother to feeling vexed that your predecessors were not singing your praises. Do not imagine that if something is hard for you to achieve, it is therefore impossible for any man, but rather consider anything that is humanly possible and appropriate to lie within your own reach too. In the field of play, an opponent scratches us with his nails, say, or gives us a butting blow with his head. But we do not mark him for that, or take offense or suspect him afterwards of deliberate attack. True, we do keep clear of him, but this is good-natured avoidance, not suspicion or treating him as an enemy. Something similar should be the case in other areas of life too. We have people who are our opponents in the game, and we should overlook much of what they do. We can avoid them, as I say, without suspicion or enmity. If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth which never harmed anyone. The harm is to persist in one's own self-deception and ignorance. I do my own duty. The other things do not distract me. They are either inanimate or irrational, or have lost the road and are ignorant of the true way. Since you have reason and they do not, treat dumb animals and generally all things and objects with generosity and decency. Treat men, because they do have reason, with social concern, and in all things call on the gods, and do not let it matter to you for how long you will be alive in this work. Even 3 hours spent thus are sufficient. Alexander of Macedon and his muleteer were leveled in death. Either they were taken up into the same generative principles of the universe, or they were equally dispersed into atoms. Reflect on how many separate events, both bodily and mental, are taking place in each one of us in the same tiny fragment of time, and then you will not be surprised if many more events, indeed all that comes to pass, subsist together in the one and the whole, which we call the universe. If someone puts to you the question, how is the name Antoninus spelt? Will you shout your way through each of the syllables? What then if they get angry? Will you lose your temper too? Will you not rather calmly go through the sequence of letters, telling each one in turn? Antoninus. So also in your life here, remember that every duty is the completed sum of certain actions. You must observe these without being disconcerted or answering others' resentment with your own, but following each purpose methodically to its end. How cruel it is not to allow people to strive for what seems to them their interest and advantage, and yet in a way you are forbidding them to do this when you fuss that they are wrong. They are surely drawn to their own interest and advantage, but it is not actually so. Well then, teach them, show them, do not fuss. Death is relief from reaction to the senses, from the puppet strings of impulse, from the analytical mind, and from service to the flesh. So death is relief from reaction to the senses, from the puppet strings of impulse, from the analytical mind, and from service to the flesh. Disgraceful if, in this life where your body does not fail, your soul should fail you first. Disgraceful if, in this life where your body does not fail, your soul should fail first. Take care not to be Caesarified or dyed in purple when it happens. So keep yourself simple, good, pure, serious, unpretentious, a friend of justice, God-fearing, kind, full of affection, strong for your proper work. Strive hard to remain the same man that philosophy wished to make you. Revere the gods, look after men, life is short. The one harvest of existence on earth is a godly habit of mind and social action. Life is short. Always as a pupil of Antoninus, his energy for all that was done according to reason, his constant equability, his piety, his serene expression, his gentleness, his lack of conceit, his drive to take a firm grasp of affairs. How he would never put anything at all aside without first looking closely into it and understanding it clearly. How he would tolerate those who unfairly blamed him without returning the blame. How he was never rushed in anything. He would not listen to malicious gossip. He was an accurate judge of men's character and actions, slow to criticize, immune to rumor and suspicion, devoid of pretense. How he was content with little by way of house, bed, dress, food, servants, his love of work, and his stamina. He was a man to stay at the same task until evening, not even needing to relieve himself except at his usual hours. Such was his frugal diet. Constant and fair in his friendships, tolerant of frank opposition to his own views, and delighted to be shown a better way, God-fearing but not superstitious. So may your own last hour find you with a conscience as clear as his. Antoninus. Sober up, recall yourself, shake off sleep once more, realize they were mere dreams that troubled you, and now that you are awake, again look on these things as you would have looked on a dream. I am made of body and soul. Now to the poor body all things are indifferent, as it cannot even make any distinction. To the mind all that is not its own activity is indifferent, and its own activities are all in its control, and all of its activities are all in its control. But within these the mind is only concerned with the present. Its activities in the future and in the past are also indifferent at any present moment. The pain of labor for hand or foot is not contrary to nature, as long as the foot is doing the work of a foot and the hand the work of a hand. So likewise for a man, qua man, there is nothing contrary to nature in pain, as long as he is doing the work of a man. And if not contrary to nature for him, not an evil either. As for pleasure, pirates, catamites, parricides, and tyrants have enjoyed it to the full. Do you not see how the working craftsman, while deferring to the layman up to a point, nevertheless sticks to the principle of his craft and will not bear to desert it? Is it not strange then that the architect and the doctor will show greater respect for the guiding principle of the craft than man will for his own guiding principle, which he has in common with the gods? Asia, Europe are mere nooks of the universe. Every ocean is a drop in the universe. Mount Athos, a spadeful of earth in the universe. The whole of present time is a pinprick of eternity. All things are tiny, quickly change, evanescent. All things come from that other world, taking their start from that universal governing reason or in consequence of it. So even the lion's gaping jaws, poison, every kind of mischief are like thorns or bogs, consequential products of that which is noble and lovely. So do not think them alien to what you worship, but reflect rather on the fountain of all things. He who sees the present has seen all things, both all that has come to pass from everlasting and all that will be for eternity. All things are related and the same. You should meditate often on the connection of all things in the universe and their relationship to each other. In a way, all things are interwoven and therefore have a family feeling for each other. One thing follows another in due order through the tension of movement, the common spirit inspiring them, and the unity of all being. Fit yourself for the matters which have fallen to your lot, and love these people among whom destiny has cast you, but your love must be genuine. An instrument, a tool, a utensil, all these are fine if they perform the function for which they were made, and yet in such cases the maker is external to the object made. In the case of things held together by organic nature, the power that made them is within and immanent in them. You should therefore respect it the more, and believe that if you keep your being and your conduct in accordance with the will of this power, all then conforms to your mind. So it is in the whole also, all that is in it conforms to the mind of the whole. If you set up as good or evil any of the things beyond your control, it necessarily follows that in the occurrence of that evil or the frustration of that good, you blame the gods and hate the men who are the real or suspected causes of that occurrence or that frustration. And indeed, we do much injustice through our concern for such things. But if we determine that only what lies in our own power is good or evil, there was no reason left us either to charge a god or to take a hostile stance to a man. We all work together to the same end, some with conscious attention, others without knowing it, just as Heraclitus, I think, says that even people asleep are workers in the factory of all that happens in the world. One person contributes in this way, another in that, and there was room even for the critic who tries to oppose or destroy the production. The world had need for him too, so it remains for you to decide in which category you place yourself. Certainly he who governs the whole will make good use of you and welcome you into some part of the joint workforce. But just make sure that your part is not that of the cheap and vulgar line in the comedy, as noted by Chrysippus. Does the sun presume to do the work of the rain god, or Asclepius that of the goddess of harvest? And what of each of the stars? Is it not that they are different, but work together the same end? Work together to the same end? Now if the gods took thought for me and for what must happen to me, they will have taken thought for my good. It is not easy to conceive of a thoughtless God, and what possible reason could they have had to be bent on my harm? What advantage would there have been from that either for themselves or for the common good, which is the main concern of their providence? If they did not take individual thought for me, they took thought for the common good, and since what happens to me is a consequential part of that, I should accept and welcome it. But if after all they take thought for nothing, an impious thing to believe, otherwise let us abandon sacrifice, pray to the gods, swearing by the gods, all the other things which we variously do on the assumption that the gods are with us and share our lives. If then they take no thought for any of our concerns, it is open to me to take thought for myself, and my concern is for what is best. Best for each is what suits his own condition and nature, and my nature is both rational and social. As Antoninus, my city and country is Rome. As a human being, it is the world. So what benefits these two cities is my only good. All that happens to the individual is to the benefit of the whole. So far, so clear, but if you look more closely, you will also see, as a general rule, that what benefits one person benefits other people too. Though here benefit should be taken in its popular application to things which are, in fact, indifferent. Just as all the business of the amphitheater in such places offends you as always one in the same sight, and this monotony of the spectacle bores you, so it is too with your experience of life as a whole. Everything up or down is the same with the same causes. How much longer then? Think constantly of all the sorts of men of various professions and of all the nations on earth who have died, and so bring your thought down to Philistion, Phoebus, and Originian. Pass now to the other classes of men. We too are bound to change our abode to that other world, where there are so many skilled orators, so many distinguished philosophers, Heraclitus, Pythagoras, Socrates, so many heroes of old, so many later commanders and kings. Add Eudoxus, Hipparchus, Archimedes, add other men of penetrating intellect, men of great vision, men dedicated to their work, add rogues, bigots, and even satirists of this transient mortal life, like Menippus and his kind. Reflect of all of these that they are long dead and buried. So is this anything terrible for them, or indeed for men whose very names are lost? In this world there is only one thing of value, to live out your life in truth and justice, tolerant of those who are neither true nor just. Whenever you want to cheer yourself, think of the qualities of your fellows, the energy of one, for example, the decency of another, the generosity of a third, some other merit in a fourth. There was nothing so cheering as the stamp of virtues manifest in the character of colleagues, and the greater the collective incidents, the better, so keep them ready to hand. You do not resent your weight, do you, that you weigh only so many pounds and not 300? So I resent either a lifespan of so many years and not more, just as you are content with the amount of matter allocated to you, so you should be content with your allocation of time. Try to persuade them, but act even if they are unpersuaded, whenever the principle of justice so directs. But if someone forcibly resists, change tack to an unhurt acceptance, so using the obstacle to bring forth a different virtue. And remember that you set out on a conditional course. You were not aiming at the impossible. So what were you aiming at? An impulse qualified by a condition. This you have achieved. What we propose to ourselves has been accomplished. How do you understand your own good? The lover of glory takes it to be the reactions of others. The lover of pleasure takes it to be his own passive experience. The intelligent man sees it as his own action. I don't know. I gotta highlight that. How to understand your own good? The lover of glory takes it to be the reactions of others. The lover of pleasure takes it to be his own passive experience. The intelligent man sees it as his own action. It is possible to have no understanding of this and not to be troubled in mind. Things of themselves have no inherent power to form our judgments. Accustom yourself not to be disregarding of what someone else has to say. As far as possible, enter into the mind of the speaker. What does not benefit the hive does not benefit the bee either. If sailors spoke ill of their captain or patients of their doctor, who else would they listen to? Otherwise, how would the captain achieve a safe voyage for his passengers, or the doctor health for those in his care? How many with whom I came into the world have already left? So he's not even asking a question. He's saying that, like, oh, how many with whom I came into the world have already left? Appearances. To the jaundiced honey seems bitter. To those bitten by rabid dogs, water is a terror. To little boys, a ball is joy. Why then am I angry? Or do you think that false representation has less effect than bile in the jaundice or poison in the hydrophobic? No one will prevent you living in accordance with the principle of your own nature. Nothing will happen to you contrary to the principle of universal nature. What sort of people they wish to please, and what kind of actions are the means of their success? How quickly time will cover everything, and how much is covered already. I want to read 51 again. How to understand your own good? The lover of glory takes it to be the reactions of others. How to understand your own good? The lover of pleasures takes it to be his own passive experience. The intelligent man sees it as his own action. How to understand your own good?